Hey everyone, Zion over here from Nintendo Life. And if you happen to see, we recently reviewed Nintendo Switch Sports, and we ended up giving it a score that may have surprised some people. So to defend that score and find out exactly what it all means, we're here to talk with Alex, right? Alex, are you here? Please tell me you showed up.
No, sorry.
Oh man, I'm summoning you! But also, to interrogate Alex and find out more about this, we also have the lovely Felix.
Objection. It's actually Mr. Felix.
Okay, well, that's where we're at today. We haven't even started talking about Switch Sports.
I was wondering how you were going to react to that, and that was just mwah.
All right, Mr. Felix it is. I'm apparently not in the loop, but I will be. So Nintendo Switch Sports came out, right? And why don't you tell us? Tell us what happened with Switch Sports, Alex.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, as you no doubt know, as lovely viewers of the channel, we don't, as in the three of us, we don't always review games, but occasionally we do. And in this instance, I reviewed Nintendo Switch Sports. I went to a preview event at Nintendo UK. And then I got the game. We didn't get the review out on the standard embargo time because the online wasn't working. But then it went online and I played it and I reviewed it. And I gave it a 6. Because, I mean, I do want to clarify that a 6 doesn't mean that I think it's a bad game. It's not a bad game. A bad game is less than 5. We use the entire scale. But in the context of Nintendo first-party games, that is below expectations. Even if it is not under a 5, it is below expectations. I was hoping it would be more.
And I'm glad you brought that up, though, too, because you're right. Like, I think a lot of people might look at the score and say, like, Switch Sports, like, I should never buy that. Like, no one's going to have fun with that. And that's not the case here. It's just that it sounds like you wanted more from the game overall.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it's there is fun to be had here. And I said that in my review. There's fun to be had, but it is limited, which is a shame.
The one thing that I really don't understand, though, Alex, is I know we just talked about how 6 is not a bad score and everything like that, but this game has bowling, correct, right?
It does, yeah. It has bowling.
And you gave a game with bowling a 6. What's wrong? Was there something wrong with the bowling? Did the bowling was it not shined well enough?
They didn't put the ball in the Shino Ballo long enough. No, the bowling is good. You know, the bowling is as good as it's ever been. In Wii Sports, it was good. It was even better in 51 Worldwide Games, and I think it's even better here. The problem is that it's still just bowling, and it's not something I actually wrote in my review because I can't write everything down. It would be tedious, for lack of a better term. But I do feel that with the online system, the elimination bowling, it sometimes feels a bit like you play 3 frames, and if you, depending on who you're against, if you do one slightly dodgy, not even a frame, but one slightly dodgy bowl, you're out.
But Alex, that's the point of elimination. If you're not good enough, you get eliminated.
I know, and I appreciate that, but that's the only bowling mode available. If there was just, sort of...
Really?
Yeah. If everyone, if there was a standard one as well, then I'd have no problem. But the fact that elimination is the only online bowling mode, and that's not good enough, baby.
I totally see what you mean, because I played the... Actually, can I even talk about that? Am I past the period where we could talk about the Switch Sports beta? Are we fine?
I don't even know. I think it's fine.
Well, just for fun, let's pretend that in an alternate reality, I may or may not have played a Switch Sports beta. And when I played this or that, I was very disappointed in that exact feeling that you're talking about right now. Because yeah, you might lose after the first 3 frames, and it really, it's kind of deflating to just not be able to get a full round of bowling in. And so, do the other games as well? Do they have kind of a lack of online options too?
Oh god, the lack of options is one of the major reasons that the game got the score that it did. It sort of with badminton is a classic example. If you're playing not even playing online, offline, there is only one option to change how the game plays, and that is a CPU difficulty thing, and there's 3 options. That is it. You can't change the number of points required to, to win. You can't you can't play doubles, which is mainly how I've played badminton in real life. And that's it. That's it. And that's just, you play a game of badminton. It's good fun. I enjoy the badminton, but, variety is the spice of life.
It's the best spice. It tastes lovely.
It's got a slight bitter note to it, but it's not unpleasant.
Actually, Alex, I want to interrogate you in a thing you said in the review about
Mr.
tennis.
Felix.
So, you said that Nintendo claims that you can use a variety of shots when playing, but despite all our efforts, we've only been able to perform forehand hits, backhand hits, and occasionally lob when we're really trying. Okay, I don't know where I'm going with this because I only read the start. Holy damn. I'm bad at this. Oh, no.
No worries. Has your thoughts changed on that, Alex? As with playing more of the game at all, or is it still just feel slightly lacking options in that area as well? That there just aren't a lot of.
It's tricky because the thing is that I know that there are mechanics in the game to put spin on the ball and things like that, because it comes up telling you in a loading screen tip. It lets you know that there are, you can put spin on the ball and stuff like that. But it's not consistent. I've not been able to do it easily. And when you consider that there's things like in badminton, to do a drop shot, you've actually got a button input. There's no sort of confusion as to whether you're going to do a drop shot or whether you're going to do just a standard hit. So those sort of minute differences. It kind of works in bowling when you're doing a sort of smoother, slower motion, but I just could not get it to work in tennis. And maybe it is user error. Maybe there are people watching this video who have no problem whatsoever, and more power to you. But I have to write about my experiences, and I am far from unfamiliar with motion-controlled games, but I couldn't make it work.
I feel like when I was playing, if I tried to I tried to put spin on it, it actually put spin on the ball. It was very consistent.
Okay.
And that was what I was trying to say before. I think I read it and I felt like, okay, that's what he means, but it's actually not what you meant. So I just want to...
You're spot on, yeah.
So yeah, I felt that if I did this certain type of spin, it worked fairly well. And there was a lot of variety in the shots then, because you could now also do spin and stuff like that. So I'm sorry that it hasn't really worked for you. Maybe it's something with, I've had occasions where my motion controls don't quite work on my Joy-Cons, or something is up. But, I got the new Switch OLED, which has brand new Joy-Cons, and it all worked pretty nice.
I can't really sort of argue against that. I think that could come down to user error then, or maybe it's something to do with the way that it's coded, as it were, whereby it's not sort of... It's a motion that's maybe a bit too specific, whereby, sort of your motor control and your actions play into that. But maybe something to do with the way that I do it. In the same way that, trying to bowl in bowling a perfectly straight ball, a perfectly straight shot with no spin whatsoever is really tough. And it feels quite unnatural. It may well be that it is just down to my own, the way that I move my arms and wrists and things like that. So I can concede that, but I have to write from my own experiences.
Of course. Also, you say that bowling is better in this than the Wii version, but I have an objection. You can't throw the bowling ball behind your back. What?
Oh.
I'm completely in shock. How is that not a thing in this? That was my favorite thing to do.
I would argue that throwing the ball behind you, if you were to do that when playing real bowling, you're not really playing bowling. So, I would counteract that by saying, although you can't do that, and it's something that I would enjoy, something that I did enjoy back in the Wii days, the fact that it's not present here doesn't affect the quality of the bowling itself.
I felt it was a bit weird, because the bowling mechanic was very different from the Wii. Here you don't have to let go. And I like coming from Wii Sports, that was a bit hard to like get used to because I was used to you let go of the button to let the ball go, but here you like have to throw, and I felt it was very awkward. And I know like we're trying to like justify you saying like, is this really that bad? But now I'm just pulling a 180. Is this really that good?
Now I'm defending it. But I'm justifying my review, the good points as well as the bad points. So I think that's a perfectly fair thing to bring up, Felix.
Awesome. Well, glad I could bring it to your attention.
Well, and in regards to that whole like little being able to throw like the bowling ball behind you, that's I think one of the coolest parts about Wii Sports was that there were so many little elements in the game that made it feel kind of like Nintendo just had so much fun making Wii Sports. There were all these extra little details that they added in that weren't actually relevant to the sport or even to the score or the gameplay, but just that you would notice and you could have fun with it. Like the fact I remember spending so much time playing Wii Sports and trying to throw the ball into the other lane and knock down pins. And I don't recall if it actually added to your score or not. I don't think so, but I just remember attempting things like that.
Could you actually do that? Did it work?
Yeah. You could throw it onto the other lane. In recent years, I've just always gotten it in the gutter. But I think you're able to hook it over and knock down pins. I just don't remember if it matters.
Oh, that's cool.
But I guess what I'm going at, or where I'm going is, does it feel like this game is just missing some of that life that, like, the original Wii Sports games had?
I would say so, yes. I don't think that from a purely sort of gameplay point of view and from the perspective of the vast majority of people who are going to play it, I don't think that's really a problem or a concern whatsoever, because, most people played Wii Sports wouldn't know all the little details and things like that, but they definitely add texture to the game for people who put the effort in to find that sort of thing out. And I don't know whether you can throw the ball in bowling into another lane or not in Switch Sports, but that's something that I'd like to find out.
The charm is gone.
There is definitely less charm here. And I don't think that necessarily makes it, that is the reason it's a 6 or anything like that, but it's definitely a point on the graph.
And have you found any instances, I guess, of something relating to the throwing the bowling ball behind yourself or have there been any moments like that make you just laugh or surprised?
Yeah, one. Well, actually no, now that I say that, I think there's a few. In volleyball, when the ball isn't in your side of the court and you don't have any action coming up, if you shake the Joy-Con, you'll clap.
No.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, when you score a goal,
that's a 10 out of 10, Alex.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
When you score a goal in football, if you jump, you'll throw your fist into the air in celebration, and also if you do a kicking motion, I believe you do something, or you press A or something, you do something. But also if you try and do a diving header when you've just scored, you'll do a sliding victory.
Yeah, knee slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's nice to hear that there's little bits of, like you said, little bits of charm sprinkled in here and there.
I played volleyball and I thought that was fairly all right. I mean, I played with my little brother and it it needed some teamwork, but I would like to why did you think it was that bad?
It just did nothing for me. It was glacial in its speed. It was so slow, and it's sort of if you're playing online or you're playing with other people and they know the game, it gets a bit faster, but it is only a bit faster. And I just find it it's a very sort of dull and tedious, at least with something like football. Even if you're not constantly interacting with the ball, you are sort of an important part and you need to be ready for anything to happen. With volleyball, it's all so predictable that it just doesn't do anything for me. And again, this is only my, sort of my experiences with the game. If you love volleyball, then more power to you. I don't want to tell people that you have to share my opinion. It's the same with anything, any review that goes out on our channel or anything like that. But for me, I think it's absolute bum.
That's totally fair, Alex. It is, again, your review, and I'm just trying to understand a bit better why this game got a 6 out of 10.
Well, and thinking about volleyball too,
throw the ball into another lane. I've just been testing it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it just goes straight into the gutter.
Nah.
Disappointed to hear, but oh well. You're right. It wasn't the most important detail, but the little things like that I think is what made me remember Wii Sports so much. I did the fact that 3 of the sports are all kind of wait for the ball to come to your side of the field and then hit it. Did that have an effect on your score? I imagine too, Alex.
It did, yes. To a degree. I mean, at the end of the day, you could say, oh, too many of the sports have balls in them. It's kind of an element of sport. And whilst there are other sports they could have pulled from, the fact that it's online, it means that whereas Wii Sports Resort had certain games that were a little bit more, not single-player focused, but single-player friendly, the whole point is, sort of team or at least, multiple people playing. And that's something that, the sort of typical net-based games, for lack of a better term, like volleyball, badminton, tennis, they lend themselves very easily to that. And certainly with the Joy-Con, it's an obvious choice. And you could argue that maybe they should have done something a little bit less obvious, but whilst it does mean that they feel a little bit samey, it's not a major complaint I have.
Okay.
I feel like, if we just look back at Wii Sports, I kind of get what Cian meant with, every sport is vastly different. You have tennis, baseball, and then bowling, golf, boxing. Do you think this game could have needed a bit more of that, a bit more variety?
Oh god, it needs more variety in almost every facet. I mean, 6 sports is an okay number, but the fact that there is no variation within those sports, with exceptions, that's the major issue I have. So, more sports? Absolutely. Or even just variety in how you can play the sports that are here. Of maybe bowling, like the 100-pin challenge isn't in bowling. And that's something that loads of people have lamented. That. Yeah. And it's like, it's so doable. It's so doable. And we've, 51 worldwide games is, the games are generally a lot simpler, but even they often had more variety in the games than the Switch and Switch Sports. And I just think that that's a missed opportunity.
Do you think this game was rushed, as we also see with golf not being implemented at launch and stuff like that? Not a lot of customizability. What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
No, I think it was planned. I think it's slightly misguided in the sense that it is planned to be kind of like a game as a service kind of thing. So Nintendo are planning to continue supporting it. They're going to add golf later, and they want to kind of drip feed content for people, a bit like Splatoon 2, but I just think that they're not doing it with a rapidity that is enough to keep people entertained.
It's coming in fall or something. It's so far.
Yeah, it's a long way away, and I can't think for a moment it's because they couldn't get it out in time. Nintendo were talented people. The developers they have are extremely talented. But I just don't think. I think it's meant to be kind of like a slow burn. And I just don't think that is a good fit for this sort of thing. They needed to come in with more content first and give more support more rapidly, rather than, hey, there's going to be one new sport in like 4 or 5 months' time.
I feel like Nintendo has gotten way too comfortable with the content down the line method, and I must say I'm not a fan. I look back at games and wow, those games actually just came out when they were done. You didn't have to wait for new characters and stuff. It was all there at launch, and I really miss that.
Yeah, I miss that as well. I think I think the first game on the Switch that really suffered from it was ARMS, and ARMS got pretty good support, but it just wasn't enough to keep people interested. Thankfully, ARMS was so original and so much fun in its gameplay that it, sort of, at least for me, overcame those limitations in variety, and I thought it was an absolute blast. Switch Sports doesn't have that. The games are too basic to overcome that, for me.
The reason I talked about, the drip feed thing was do you think this game would have gotten a higher score if golf was here at launch?
Oof. I mean, it depends on how golf is. We don't know how good it's going to be, how many courses there are. But I think that it certainly wouldn't have hurt.
It would have given more variety. Yeah.
When I think that the cool thing about Switch Sports, if Nintendo plays their cards right, is that Wii Sports I think it's fair to say that it's the reason why the Wii was successful, or a major part. And I think that if Nintendo continues to put resources and effort into Switch Sports, and maybe every 6 months we get a new sport, maybe someday we'll be looking at a Switch Sports that has 15 different game options, and maybe that's completely unrealistic, I don't know, but with a game that it's hard to say that Wii Sports sold well because it was a pack-in title and it came with every Wii for so many years, But but if Switch Sports eventually sells and gets up there with the likes of Animal Crossing and Mario Kart, which honestly sounds impossible at this point, but if it ever does get even close, maybe Nintendo will start to implement more, and maybe this conversation will be dated as heck in a few years, but
maybe.
Yeah.
It was a major complaint that people had with certainly the original Splatoon, more so than Splatoon 2 because people knew what to expect by that point. But it kind of worked with Splatoon because, again, the gameplay loop was so satisfying that you didn't necessarily need a load of content. I mean, don't get me wrong, Splatoon is better when it's full of content, as almost any game is, but it kind of worked with Splatoon, but here there's just not enough. There's no progress, as it were, except for maybe the ranking system, but even that feels it feels a bit loose.
Do you guys think that they're going to make a Switch Sport Booster Course Pass? There's going to be 48 new sports added down the line in 6 different waves.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did do something with Switch Sports, here's, if there's 7 sports when you get golf in there, hey, here's 3 new sports and it's free if you've got Nintendo Switch Online.
They could definitely do that. I could totally see it.
And even as we know too now, even 5 years down the road, we know that's not out of the question either.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, admittedly, Mario Kart is an exception. It always is. But yeah, it's weird. But the thing is, when it comes to reviews, you got to review things as they are. You can take the future into consideration, but at the end of the day, reviews are for how a product is when you get it.
Well, did you have any closing thoughts, I guess, Alex? I guess I did have one kind of question, which maybe kind of wraps into this, but is there something that you felt when you played this game that you were just really disappointed about, I guess, that you wished, was there, like that kind of made this a not bad, a 6 out, experience for you? Is there an easy tell,
Yeah, it comes down to variety. For me, honestly, that is the biggest factor. There's just not enough variety. Even something really basic like changing the number of points required to win a game of badminton. Being able to even do a full set in tennis, which you can't do, let alone a match, you can't even do a set. It just sort of I'm not expecting them to be the default, these crazy things or different things or longer play sessions or anything like that, but just have them as an option, Variety is the spice of life. It is the spice of gaming. And that's, I think, where they most notably, if you'll pardon the pun, drop to the ball.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, I suppose there you have it. That's Alex defending his 6 out of 10
done,
score on Nintendo Switch Sports. Thank you.
It didn't take long for you to start agreeing with me. But I appreciate you putting me through my paces, The price of this sort of thing is eternal vigilance, and I'd never want to think, I'd never want you guys to think that I'd become lazy or anything like that, and didn't hold me to a high standard.
Well, I think it's fair to have higher expectations for something like this too, and it's nice to hear your perspectives in this aspect as well about the game. So yeah, so thanks for letting us run you through it. And of course, let us know in the comments down below if you've played Switch Sports yourself, if you've been holding out, if there's something that you really wish that the game had, or if you've been playing it, let us know what you really enjoy about it, because all of your opinions really do matter too. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you find a way to volley that subscribe button back to somebody else on the other side of the field, and then ring that notification bell while you're waiting for it to come back to you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Alex and Felix, for joining me in this chat. And stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.
Oh boy, Mario, we're in a Nintendo Live video.
I can't top that.